My name is Chuma Chini, and I am your family lawyer. I was called to the Nigerian bar in 1988, and I have over 35 years experience in family law practice. I've helped countless families navigate Nigeria's complex legal terrain, and I am desirous of bringing this knowledge and expertise to you free of any charges. This episode and that of the next 2 weeks will be devoted mostly to our Muslim brothers and sisters and to our Christian brothers and sisters as well who might be considering Islamic marriage. You know, you go out there and you never can tell where love takes you. It might take you to a Muslim man or a Muslim woman, even if you weren't a Muslim. Cases abound. Our former president, Ibrahim Babangida, married my dear sister from Asaba. And she changed her name to Mariam. Many may not know this, but that is Nigeria for you. And so today we're looking into Islamic marriages. Have you ever wondered what makes an Islamic marriage lawful, even though it's not a marriage conducted within the ambit of the Marriage Act? We'll break down what an Islamic marriage is, and then we'll talk about the roles of the Wali and the Mahr, and why these elements are crucial. Let me pause here and render an advance apology to our Muslim brothers and sisters in case I do damage to any of those words. I'm Igbo from Delta State, and so when we talk about the Igbo words, I may be more comfortable. But for these ones, accept it the way I present it to you. In addition to the legalese you would hear a real life story that will give you a front seat to a courtroom drama that involves the issue of Mahr. By the end of this episode, you will have a solid grasp of what an Islamic marriage is and why it is recognized within the Nigerian legal system, and what the impact of Mahr is in a marriage. Now let's jump in and see what we have for today. An Islamic marriage, or nikah, is basically a contract of marriage between a man and a woman under Islamic law. In Nigeria, particularly in the northern states of Nigeria, Islamic law governs family matters like marriage, divorce, and inheritance. Unlike marriage under the Marriage Act, an Islamic marriage can be polygamous, simply meaning that a man can marry up to 4 wives. 4 wives. But this is only if he can treat them equally and if he has the means to do so. Examples of this abound in Nigeria, but eminent practitioners of this include our former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, and my brother, Ned Nwoko, who, though from Idumujuboko, next to my own village in Delta State, is a practicing Muslim and is married quite a number of wives. One of them he married under Igbo traditional law and custom, and so did Atiku Abubakar. He married Jennifer, an Igbo woman from Anambra State, under Igbo traditional law and custom. That's the Nigeria that we live in. So what do you need for a valid Islamic marriage? First, you need consent of both parties. In other words, the intending husband and the intending wife must willingly agree to be married. Next, there must be witnesses. People must be there to say truly these people got married. And unique to the Islamic marriage is that there must be what is called Wali, a guardian for the bride. We'll talk about the role of this Wali in a short while. And then there is the Mahr, which is a mandatory gift from the groom to the bride. We'll also talk about this shortly. And then there has to be a valid offer and a valid acceptance of both the proposal and of the Mahr before the marriage can be lawfully consummated. You need to know that these are just not random rules. They come straight from the Quran and the Hadith, and they are fundamental principles for a lawful marriage under Sharia. Just like in other marriages, both parties need to say, yes, I do. That is to say, the husband must say so and the wife must say so. But then there's a lot more. You need at least 2 witnesses to seal that deal and make it a proper marriage. Of course, there is the Wali, usually a male guardian for the bride, who could be her dad or her elder brother. or an elder cousin. But he too must give his thumbs up. He must agree to the marriage. And his job? Making sure that the bride isn't being pressured or deceived into the marriage. Then there is the mahr. Just like the bride price in most part of southern Nigeria, the mahr is a mandatory gift from the groom to the bride. The amount may vary, but the mahr is fundamental. It is crucial, and it's about securing the bride's future. Without the mahr, there is no valid marriage in Islam. Now let's get deeper into the wali and the mahr because they are fundamental to the validity of an Islamic marriage. The wali is the bride's guardian. His consent is a must for the marriage to be valid. He's there to protect the bride's interest and to make sure that she's not getting a raw deal. Then the mahr, which is the must-have gift from the groom to the bride. It is the bride's right. It can be cash, it can be property, or any other valuable item acceptable to the bride. You could think of it as a financial security, or as Davido would say, assurance for the bride, and is a sign, an ultimate sign of the groom's commitment to his bride. Both parties must agree on the mahr before they tie the Islamic knot. If they agree to defer the mahr, that is to say, if they agree, for instance, that a part of it could be paid later, it's doable. But make no mistake, the mahr isn't just a formality. The mahr is the fundamental consideration, the ingredient that seals the marriage. It's a serious legal obligation under Islamic law. Okay, now let's spice up things a little bit with the story of Fatima Musa and Ahmed Musa. In the heart of a solemn Sharia courtroom, where faith and justice intertwine, two lives converge at a pivotal moment. They are bound by promises of marriage, but divided by unfulfilled obligations. What does this mean, really? Ahmed agreed to marry Fatima, but as it turned out, he did not remit the agreed mahr, the sacred gift, the cornerstone of Islamic marriage. He didn't do so. And his failure to do so now threatens the very foundation of their union. Naturally, the court must weigh in and decide whether it is fair for Fatima to remain married to Ahmed when he hadn't performed his obligation to her. This is what the court had to decide. Let's see what it says.
In a traditional Sharia courtroom, the atmosphere is solemn. Ahmed and Fatima are present with their lawyers, and the alkali, judge, is ready to preside over the case between them.
This court is now in session to deliberate the case of the validity of the marriage between Mr. Ahmed and Mrs. Fatima.
Your Honor, I appear for Fatima. The foundation of this marriage rests upon the mahr, which was agreed upon but never paid at the time of the marriage ceremony. We submit that this renders the marriage invalid under Islamic law. The respondent ought to have paid the mahr as part of the marriage rights, but the promise was broken.
Your Honor, I appear for Ahmed. The intent to pay the mahr was clear, and my client intends to fulfill this obligation.
According to Islamic jurisprudence, the payment of mahr is essential at the time of marriage. It is a fundamental aspect of the contract. The Quran explicitly states in Surah An-Nisa 4:4, "And give the women upon marriage their bridal gifts graciously." There are several schools of thought within Islamic jurisprudence that regard the payment of mahr as essential for the validity of the marriage. The Hanafi and Shafi'i schools hold that a marriage is valid even if the mahr is not specified at the time of the contract, but it remains an obligation that must be fulfilled. On the other hand, the Maliki and Hanbali schools place greater emphasis on the payment of mahr as a condition for the validity of the marriage contract itself. In this particular case, given the refusal to pay the mahr, Mrs. Fatima is entitled to seek justice from this court. The mahr is her right, and non-payment has serious implications under Islamic law. The husband is ordered to immediately fulfill his obligation to pay the mahr to his wife. Failure to comply with this order will result in the annulment of the marriage due to the invalidity of the contract under the stipulations of the Sharia.
The case of Ahmed and Fatima demonstrates how love can be threatened by unfulfilled obligations under the strict dictates of Islamic law.
Of course, regarding that marriage, the center could no longer hold. That marriage couldn't be valid under Islamic law. Now, let's talk about the legal implications of Mahr and its recognition in Nigeria. In the states where Sharia law is implemented, Islamic marriages are governed by religious laws, and the Mahr is recognized as a legally enforceable obligation. Even in certain other parts of Nigeria, like in parts of Yoruba land where people practice Islam, the concept of Mahr is respected. In these communities, the courts recognize that Mahr forms an essential part of the marriage contract, and failure to fulfill this obligation can lead to significant legal consequences. Yes, even in cases of divorce, the Mahr plays even more important roles. If the Mahr was deferred, that is to say, if the groom and the bride had agreed that payment of the Mahr should be done by installment, the groom must pay fully before the divorce is finalized. This ensures that the bride is financially compensated even after the marriage ends. The Mahr also affects the division of assets of the marriage, as it is treated separately from any jointly owned property. In summary, an Islamic marriage is more than just a religious or cultural practice. It is a legal contract with clearly defined rights and obligations. The role of the Wali and the Mahr are central to this contract, ensuring that the bride's interests are protected. If you're entering an Islamic marriage, it is essential to understand your rights and obligations under both Islamic law and the general Nigerian law. Please make sure that the terms of the Mahr are clear and agreed upon by both parties to avoid future disputes. This is where we'll draw the curtain on today's episode of Your Family Lawyer. Be sure to join us next week for part 2, where we'll explore polygamy in Islamic marriages. We'll look at the requirements for polygamy and the distribution of property among wives. Until then, please stay informed and be empowered. And by all means, be good to your family. My name is Chuma Chinye, and I am your family lawyer.